Hi, this is Margo. This is Sunday evening, September the 4th, 2022. I hope everyone is safe and doing as well as possible. We made it through another week. Each week it seems like it's harder than the week before, but we're still here. And I'd like to welcome everyone to the show tonight. This will be my weekly update that I'll be putting on YouTube, and we're going to go over climate related items, methane, sea ice, and some earthquakes. So we're going to start with Climate Reanalyzer and just tour the world here. This is maximum temperatures for today. We're getting colder air over the Arctic. You can see the aquas moving into the darker blue over here on the chart. It's the bright aqua is about 0 degrees Celsius, and the this dark aqua or blue is about I'd say minus 5 to minus 8 degrees Celsius right there. And see, we've got aqua coming up through this Chukchi Sea, and we still have quite a few greens. We still have the dark greens around where the sea ice is, on the outside of the sea ice areas, and that's about 8 degrees C. And then coming down, we've had a heat dome set up over the whole western part of the U.S. for the last week or so, and it's been hot where I am in the Reno, Nevada area. They were predicting, I think, 105 over the Labor Day weekend. I don't know how hot it's been. It's been at least 100. And anyway, you can see these whites coming up from Arizona up through California, and then through the upper Midwest, and the whites are 40 C or higher, and that's about 100 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. Here in the interior of Brazil, we still have whites. Northern Africa still has whites. Saudi Arabia moving up through the Middle East. Southern Russia and Kazakhstan have whites, and moving down into India. But you can see this heat all the way up in through Canada there. Here's 2-meter temperature anomaly. This is the air temperature again. Now we've got blues across a lot of Russia where it had been browns, and into the reddish tinge. We've got some browns across the North Atlantic, coming across the Barents Sea, Kara Sea, and over Russia there. And then browns over the Beaufort Sea and the Arctic Basin. And then Greenland is brown and into the reddish zone. Now, the browns, the medium brown is about 6C higher than normal. And when it starts to move into the red, dark brown and red, that's about 14 to 16C higher than normal. Now we've been seeing rain up here in the Baffin Bay on this west side of Greenland, and for 2 days in a row they've had some really high melting, about I think it was about 35% melting yesterday. We'll look at that too. And so that's definitely out of line for what it's supposed to be this time of year. This time of year it's at the end of their melt season, and then we see that spike because of the rain. And then here over North America, you can see this the brown from California all the way up, really up to the Arctic Ocean. It's a huge area, and of course droughts and everything. And then blues right next to it. Here's the flat view. We're seeing some reds over the Antarctic. Reds and browns. Here's browns over Kazakhstan and the Middle East area, and so on. You can see where they are. We've got brown over the North Atlantic. This area, just off the coast of Newfoundland, the sea surface temperature anomaly is really spiking. This whole area is out of control with the heat. And also look at the brown, warmer air off the coast of the U.S. here over the Pacific. So these are not good signs. Worldwide, we're up 0.2 C higher than normal. The northern hemisphere is up 0.9 C. The Arctic is up 1.7 C higher than normal. That's because of what's going on in Greenland. The Antarctic is 1.7 C lower than normal. Now that's come up a lot. It's been at -4 C lower than normal. Southern hemisphere is 0.4 C lower than normal, and the tropics are in balance. Here's precipitation and clouds today, and see the rain, big arm coming straight up through the Baffin Bay and right up to along the Greenland coast there. It was raining in pretty much the same area yesterday, and we're seeing rain. It looks like rain on the ice here on this east side. So we'll see what the melt looks like tomorrow when they post today's. And we've got rain in northern Russia, Siberia, also Alaska, and then coming up over the Beaufort Sea. Then we've got this big system that's just making landfall on Ireland and the UK. You can see the swirl there. And here's another one coming up across the Atlantic. And then look at all this rain on coming up to Canada, but it's just staying up there, nothing coming further south. Here's the flat view. There's also something here, looks like just north of Taiwan. I tried to keep track of all the different weather systems, but I can't do it. I mean, what I'm doing is full-time, pretty much. Here are the jet loops. See these big loops? It's letting the cold air out. It's just not keeping it in. Here's the flat view, and here's that low system next to Ireland. See how it's all broken up here in the southern hemisphere too. Well, trying to go back up. We'll look at sea ice and snow cover in a minute. This is sea surface temperature anomaly. Now I'm expecting them to just change this chart just any time now, because we know that it's going above 6C higher than normal. We know that. From temperatures we see on Earth Null School. So, but they're still holding at this light pink, this area right here. In this North Atlantic, that's 6C higher than normal. So, looking here in the Arctic, we're seeing more and more browns and reds. We're seeing a few blues in the Barents Sea and here off the coast of Norway, and that's cooler than normal. But for the most part, it's warmer than normal. Along the Russia coastline especially. Also along the Alaska coastline and the Canada coastline. And so you can see this area. This evil eye is just a huge, huge area that really, it starts down here off the coast of the U.S. and Canada, and then just it's just spreading out, getting bigger and bigger. This is also the area where we have our problem spot with methane in the North Atlantic, where it just kind of bubbles along. Then we've got browns all the way across. Here's the flat view, and see this whole northern Atlantic. It looks terrible. And then all of the interior water areas, all the seas, and the browns and reds. And then here in the Pacific, we've got our worst blob in the West Pacific, not too far from Japan, where they're going to be dumping the radioactive water into the ocean. I don't know if that started yet or not. The extra that had been stored. They got to do something with it. I guess. I don't know. And then, now this evil eye had been over here in the northeast, and then it moved west, and we have another hot spot in this northeast Pacific. Now this had been red. It's not now, but you can see it's all in the dark browns. And here it is, all along the Canada and U.S. coast, all the way down along Baja, Mexico. And then in the South Pacific, same thing. From Papua New Guinea over. Worldwide, we're up 0.5 C higher than normal. The Northern Hemisphere and North Pacific are both up 0.9 C. The North Atlantic is up 1.2 C. And I'm assuming that that includes the Arctic region, since it's not separated. The Southern Hemisphere is up 0.1 C, and the Equatorial Pacific is down 0.2 C. So that's the first part of the bad news. Now we'll move on to methane. I have 2 days worth of methane data from NOAA to share. We're looking at Friday the 2nd in the morning on the MET-OT-B or MET-OT-1 satellite, which is the only one we have data from now. And we've been tracking this 469 millibar level. The mean or average was 1944 parts per billion, and the high reading was 2483. And we've got a lot of missing data for, looks like about half of the US and a lot of Canada, Mexico, Central America, and the west side of South America, and a little bit of Brazil there, and also part of Greenland. So even with all of that missing data, which have a lot of really high readings, especially in the US and South America, even with that, our mean was still 1944. In the afternoon, the mean was 1945 and the high reading was 2370. And so you can see it's mainly in the pinks, which is a range between 2000 and whatever the high number is. Here it's 2370. And then for Saturday morning, the 3rd, it's 1944 on the mean again. The high reading was 2508. That's a little spike there. See all these pinks down here in the Southern Hemisphere. And in the afternoon, the mean was 1946. That's the highest number we've seen this year, 1946. And the high reading was 2341. Here's our spreadsheet and chart. So for the 3rd, that averages out to be 1945 parts per billion, and that was the same reading as what we had in my report last week, so no change overall for this week. So it's just a little straight line there for this week. We're still 15 parts per billion higher than we were a year ago, and we're 75.5 parts per billion higher than when I started this on March the 1st of 2019. Now, we're still in the rise season until usually around the first part of October. I'm thinking it may go longer this year because we got kind of a late start. See, it just kind of didn't do much at the beginning of the summer, and then just, in just a few weeks it's jumped up. Let's see what it did this week. So here we were at 1945 for the 27th in my show last week, where we had gone up that week 7.5. And then on the 28th it went back down 2.5. On the 29th, no change. On the 30th, went up 2 parts per billion. On the 31st, it went up 1.5. Now on this one, on the 31st, see, the average was 1946. And on both the morning and the afternoon readings, they both came in at 1946. And that's the highest we've had so far. Then on the 1st it went back down 1. On the 2nd it went down 0.5. And then on the 3rd it went up 0.5. Bringing it back up to where we were last weekend. So no change this week overall. But we're still setting records. We're still, this much higher every year. And right now we're at 15 parts per billion higher than a year ago. So no matter what happens, we're still higher than we were this time last year. So, setting records all the time. Now we're going to look at the CAMS methane data. I have Saturday the 3rd ready, Arctic view and surface level. Here's our color ledger. So the data is for Saturday, and forecast period is Sunday through Wednesday. If you'll look right here, here's that problem spot in the North Atlantic. That's right in the middle of that evil eye of the red blob that we saw. See, there it is, just bubbling up there. And if you look at Iceland, it's popping off. We're seeing reds around this kind of northwest coastline. See there? See the reds? We've got this constant hot spot off the coast of Norway there. I'm assuming that's from oil drilling. I don't know. And the Scandinavian area has calmed down, but it's coming back to life. the interior of Russia was still having very high readings all the way across. Komsomolets is still billowing with the methane. It's not hemorrhaging like we saw it for a while, but it is still billowing high readings. Alaska is still high in the interior, especially after they've had rain. I mean, especially then. And here's Canada. Look at this. That's streaming up from North Dakota. And then here in eastern Canada. These waves, these green waves and the yellow waves moving across, that's signs of very high methane. We're also seeing higher readings here in southern Russia. See there. And now we'll go to the North Pole view. We can see the whole northern hemisphere pretty much from this vantage point. Now look at this where it's streaming off the coast of China. Here's the coastline, and look at these heavy waves moving out. That's just awful. This is it started a couple of days ago, where it's spilling over the heavy methane. See that? Here's India, it's filling back up. Look at the Persian Gulf, it's filling back up. It's just a big blob spilling over. And here's Ireland and UK, Germany, and down into Italy, that whole area. And then here, very blobby in the US. Look at these waves move across and down and across. See the wave, it comes out from Russia and then it moves across, see, across the Aleutian Islands. Sometimes it streams down off of Alaska, then it kind of spirals around as it comes up to Canada and then spirals back out. And we're seeing waves spiral down here in the North Atlantic. See, spiraling down. And we'll go to the global view. And this darker blue is a lower reading, just little wisps here and there, and then here in the West Pacific, and that reading is 1840 parts per billion. The next color up is 1860, and that's the majority of the background color in the southern hemisphere. Now we'll look at 500 HPA. Look at this. See all this dark all across Russia and here over to Norway, and then of course China and Southern Asia, and then here, this is that's Iran, I think. See the reds, how far south they are? And then total column. And this is where it's added up through all the layers of the atmosphere, and we look at this big wide band just covering. That's it's a whole big area. That's where it was, spilling over the ocean in China, or from China, and so on. Here's India all the way across. And this is the Persian Gulf, and here's Saudi Arabia. That's the worst part. And then all the reds. So there's that. Now I wanted to just show now we're going to look at sea ice in a minute. This is Greenland yesterday. On the 2nd. This is from National Snow and Ice Data Center. They post it the day after. So look at all the melting here on this southwest edge. Look how far in. That was from the rain in the Baffin Bay a couple of days ago. And here, this was the extent chart from that day. Almost 20% melt extent. On the 2nd, it's just shy of that 20% line. And then we'll look at Greenland again today in a minute. Alright. I think that's all I had there. Now I want to go through these. Here's cams with the smoke from the fires. We're not really seeing that much on this east side. Now here on the west side, we've got it here in Canada, Western Canada, and this is the Pacific Northwest in the U.S. with Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. So lots of fires burning up through there. This is sulfur dioxide today. Nothing, just nothing really huge here. And here it is at 500 HPA. Again, it's not huge, but this is areas where it jumps up, carries all the way up to halfway up in the atmosphere. Here's Kamchatka. Here's the ozone hole over the Antarctic today. Now the sun is coming up, but you know, it's been cold in the dark for so long there, months on end. And so now this thinner area is forming. It's kind of all morphing together. And so this is all in the danger zone. So it's almost the whole land mass is now in the danger zone for the ozone. It goes 3 levels down inside this black line. I'll show you on cams. Let's go to Sunday. And we'll go to ozone. And let's go to the Antarctic. Here's their color chart. The solid yellow, which is right down here, is 300 Dobson units, and then as it goes up into the reds, it gets thicker. And this is measured in Dobson units, and the 300 Dobson units is considered a good reading or higher. But once you start going to the left of that, going into the greenish tinges and the blues, you start getting thinner. So once you get into this purplish right here, that's 200 to 220 Dobson units. And they put a black line around it, meaning that's in the danger zone. And then this next color down is 175 to 200 Dobson units, and then this next blue down, we're looking at 150 to 175 Dobson units. So that's where we're at right now, and the sun is coming up down there. So that's our ozone hole down there. Hasn't gone away. Here's the Arctic ozone. It's thinning out more and more. Look at this over Greenland and the North Atlantic. See that? And also over this west side. Also here over Kazakhstan and Canada, western Canada and the western part of the US. See, that's all in the green. And here's the global view. See, this green comes all the way down. And we've got an area right around the equator that stays thin year-round now, and especially here in the Indian Ocean. This is just west of Australia. It's a perpetual hole right there. And there's earthquakes. We may look at the pictures. I'm thinking I might just go through those on the website. We'll see. Now we'll move on to sea ice. We're going to start with this slideshow. I save these images from Climate Reanalyzer every day. And this is sea ice and snow cover for today in the Arctic. And you can see this Northwest Passage is open. This right up here where it's just coming off of the Arctic and these tributaries, there's still some ice, but not much, and it's broken up. Baffin Bay is clear, obviously, and we're still seeing some melting on the extent. Here, this is where from the North Pole up, it's collapsing still. And this Baffin Bay, not Baffin Bay, sorry, Beaufort Sea, this is pretty much wide open. What little fringe ice you see here is almost nothing. This whole area is essentially open. So let's see what happened this week. So here we were last week on my show on the 28th. We had the holes up there. I think the ice drift is kind of filling these back up. It's not refreezing. It's too warm for that. But here's where we were this last Sunday. So let's just click through. Here's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Big change there, huh? Friday, Saturday. Look at that. And here we are today. So a big change here in the Beaufort Sea from day to day there. That's all of those. And now we'll go through our models. This is from the U.S. Navy. Arctic sea ice thickness for today, the 4th. So if you see anything like the light lavender, that's just like very filmy ice, a lot of open water, not much ice. I mean, I wouldn't count it myself, but they count it in extent. And same with this ice up here where we see the light lavender. I just wouldn't count it because there's so much open water. And here's this hole above Greenland, and got a tiny bit of thicker ice just west of that along the coastline. And then I'm really focusing in on this area just above Canada and Greenland, which is what's left of the thicker sea ice, and it's still dwindling. It's still breaking apart. You can see the lines where the leads where it's starting to open up. And it's still the aqua's like this. This is all darker aqua now. You can see where it's coming apart. And usually the minimum will be reached around mid-September, so a couple of weeks from now. But a lot of times we'll still see melting even though it's reached minimum extent. And I think why they're calling it such a large extent is just the ice is spread out. It's not better ice, it's just spread out. So there, we do see these holes kind of closing back up here north of the North Pole, but we see new holes forming here west of that, just inside the 80-degree north latitude. Here's the 30-day animation. This was updated to yesterday, so the data goes back 3 weeks and the forecast period goes out to next Saturday. Let's see, this Beaufort Sea is it's going. It's just going. More thinning. Somehow they're keeping this skim of ice there. Somehow. I don't know how. Okay, let's focus in. Look at this. So it's still coming apart, this thicker ice. And still melting, but that's what we've got. Let's see. Very dark aqua. This is down into the dark blue. That's about 1 meter thick. We're still about 1 meter thick at the North Pole. And see, we've got even the dark blue here off the coast of Canada. And so on. So it doesn't look like a blue ocean event. I mean, if we didn't count any of this purple ice, we might have a blue ocean event, I'm thinking, if we didn't count any of the purple. Okay, here's the Beaufort Sea sea ice thickness today. This is Canada. Here's the thicker ice. See where it's pulled away from the coastline because the ice drift. And so what we're seeing down here in the Beaufort Sea is just a lot of open water in between very poor ice, mushy, thin, slushy. And here's the 30-day animation. This was updated to today. So the forecast period goes out to next Sunday. So we can see that by next Sunday, this this lavender area is going to be pretty much gone in the Beaufort Sea. See, a whole lot melting going on there. So there's that. And here's the Antarctic sea ice thickness today. And they're still building on the extent, and it's still thickening. Here's the most the thicker ice is here in the Weddell Sea, just off the coast of the Western Peninsula. See, then we've got some thicker ice around some of these coastlines. And the 30-day animation, again updated to yesterday. So the forecast period goes out to next Saturday. See, this is still thickening up. Now, almost all of the coastline is in the sun now. And now moving on to National Snow and Ice Data Center. This is the Arctic sea ice concentration for yesterday. And see all this dark blue. Here's the hole. Here's a hole. But this is, see, when it gets into that dark blue, that's just a lot of open water, and we can see it's coming apart, this whole eastern side, and the north. And here's the extent. It's still going down. Here's our blue line for this year. Still headed down, and still in between 2012 and the median. Here's the Antarctic sea ice concentration. And the brown line is the median. So that's where we're underneath it. Here's this chart tracking the regrowth of the extent. And it's just nosing up just a tiny bit. Still well below last year and the median. Now last year we reached the maximum extent at the end of August, and looks like we're still inching along. I think we've almost maxed out here. Look at this. Now this is Greenland melting for yesterday. Look at this. This is awful. And that's from the rain. And see, it goes all the way across here. Huge area, this whole west side. and the northwest, and even on the east side. And here are the cumulative melt days for this year. Anything that's not white, it means it's had at least 1 day of melting. And see, we're going up into the reds, purplish colors here, up into 80, 85 days of melt. And up here too. And here's the chart for yesterday. Now this is just going up. So here, this is for yesterday. That's above 35%. That, I would say, that's about 37% melt. And next to that, the highest we saw was about 41%, 42%. That was in July. So this is very anomalous. And see, here's our dotted blue line at the bottom. Typically, it should be, that melting should be winding down by now. But we're not in typical times anymore. So there's that. And that's all of those. Now we'll move on. Moving on to NASA Worldview. I'll refresh. And we'll start in the Arctic here today. I don't know why that didn't come in. Let's try it again. Oh, that's not good. There we go. And we're going to look at the Antarctic too, but I want to start here. So here's our sea ice concentration layer. And turning off the clouds. Blue marble layer, here we go. Anywhere you see colors, that's where it's melting. What am I doing? I wanted to just zoom in and see, we're starting to see a hole here in this western part. This is part of that, on the edge of where the thicker ice is. That thicker ice is just right along here, above Greenland and Canada here. So we're starting to see a hole. Once it gets into green, you're starting to see some open water. And see, this is what's left in the Beaufort Sea. Not a whole lot. And see, that's even in high melt. Up here, in Chukchi Sea and East Siberian Sea, that's in high melt. And up here, north of the North Pole, we've got the holes, and see, this is still in high melt with all those colors. And coming up from Greenland too. So let's go back to last Sunday. It's the 28th. And let's see what happened this week. Here we go. So here was Sunday. Here's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then here we are today. So you can see big changes from day to day. Now, turn our clouds back on. Turn that off. Oh, and the nighttime layer is now fully back online. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. So let's start. Here, look at Greenland. See, you can see the blues. This is where it's melting. See the melt ponds. It's still going to show melting today when they get their data in. Look at all the blues. See. And remember, this whole area is warmer. It was in the browns and moving into the reddish, warmer than normal. Alright, here's Greenland at the north end. Here's the hole. See there? And the hole on the right side, or east side. Here's the nearest strait, and moving down, there's a cloud. Let's go back. Okay, here it was on the 2nd. See all the open water here. And here's Baffin Bay. So where's it raining? Let's look again. Oh, right up there. See? Here's our storm coming up, and it's raining right up here. That'll be melting. Here, melt ponds again. That's where the ice melts on top, and so it's just pools of water on top of the ice. Okay. Let's go. There's Svalbard. Here's Franz Josef Land. Here's the edge of the sea ice. Kind of, where is it? sometimes it's hard to tell the ice from the clouds. There it is. Here's the edge. See? Let's come over. Look at this. Here's the North Pole. Look. Here's the ice. See? A lot of open water. Look at this. Okay, now we're looking through a cloud, but see these white pieces? Those are the ice, and the other area is open water. Let's look up here. See? You get an idea. See. Okay, here's Severnia Zemlia. Here's Combs and Mollets, where the methane is still coming up. And I wanted to show this Fovelov ice cap. There's a cloud. Look at this 2 days ago. See, you can see the ice pouring into the ocean. It's this constant thing, so you can see the flow and everything. Okay, here we are today. Okay. Let's see. If we didn't have the clouds, we'd be shocked if we could really see the ice. We would be shocked. I'm sure of it. That's open. Those are clouds. Here's New Siberian Islands. And here's the Laptev Sea. All of this is open. Here it was yesterday. Those are weird clouds. Strange. And here's Siberia. And where's the sea ice? There's some sea. That's sea ice. Very little. Okay, moving on around. There's the Bering Strait. Here's the Beaufort Sea. These are clouds. I mean, that's open. That sure looks open to me. Let's see where the ice is supposed to be. Okay, a little bit down here, and then all this area is coming apart. See? Not much, is it? See? Here's Canada. Here's some ice. That's the edge. Here we go. Look at this. See the big hole along the coast there? And where are we? This is Ellesmere Island. See, this is melting. I want to see if I can find the hole on the west side. Let's turn on our ice again. Right there. That's where I want to go. Cloud. Yeah, see the leads are opening up. See the cracks. Let's go back. I don't see a hole. Anyway, oh yeah, that's a completely different image. That's got clouds. Right here it doesn't have clouds. Anyway, you get the idea. Now, let's move down to the Antarctic. And here we are today. See, this black area is just shrinking as the sun is coming up. Now I'm going to start off over here. We're tracking this A76 iceberg right here. I think, yeah, there he is. I wanted to show something. Okay, here we were. This is a good picture on the first. And see, it broken free of the ice. This is an island here. Here's another island. And I was thinking it was going to run into it, but watch what happens. Here's the first. Here's the second. Here's the third. And see, it's there's a cloud there, but so here's the island. See, it's almost ready to hit the island, right? Watch this. Boom. Boom. Look, it's jumped up. It moved about an inch. Look, here's the third. There's the fourth. So I don't know what they did to it, but I don't think it did that on its own. So I'll show you that again. See, here's the island. There's the iceberg. It's moving closer, closer, and boom. He's moved, jumped up. And it looks like, I don't know if that's a cloud or if a piece broke off. But there's the island there. Jumped up. So, I don't know how that happened. Okay, now let's see what we can see. Now the sun is still at a very low angle, so it might be hard to make some things out. So this is along the western peninsula. These are the Larsen ice shelves here, and right along here is the thickest sea ice, but see, it's got cracks even. Here's the Ross ice shelf. We've got clouds there. Now I want to go this way. Here's our first real good, halfway decent look at Pine Island Glacier and Thwaites Glacier. Here's Pine Island. There it is. And here's the ice tongue coming down. There's a big hole right there, and a hole over here. And then here, this is Thwaites Glacier. This is the Doomsday Glacier that they're so worried about. That's the texture of the ice that you see there. And remember how this tongue had broken up? Well, it refroze and comes all the way down. See? Down. All the way down. But here's open water right here. So this part did not refreeze. See that? Now it looks like it's trying to refreeze here, but that's open. And here's a big crack coming down. So we'll be watching all of that. So this has got to be a lot warmer water. One way we can check is ice surface temperature layer. See if that's gonna work. Alright. That must be clouds. These must be clouds. I thought it was ice, but it's not. Those are clouds. Let's go back. So we can't really see it. Anyway, that's open. Let's see. It's hard to tell sometimes what's clouds and what's ice. Okay, moving on. Here's the southwestern edge. And this is the Ross Sea, refrozen down here. And right down here, this is Ross Island. It's got a big cloud over it. Mount Erebus is right there. McMurdo Research Station is right up here on that little tippy point. But we've got a bunch of clouds. We can't really see that right now. Yesterday, not a good view either. Now we're seeing these are shadows from the volcanoes or the mountains. See, that's yesterday. Here we are today. Okay, coming on around. There's the ice edge. Uh-oh, I'm about to get lost. Okay, here's Thwaites Glacier. This is not Thwaites, I'm sorry. Totten Glacier. I'm tracking this one too. See all this open water? Here's the tongue. This had cracked across before their winter, but it looks like it refroze. And here's the sea ice. See, there's open there. And then here's the east side. See, not much ice extent on this east side. Here's the Amory ice shelf. Here's yesterday. Look. That's open water there. Here we are today with clouds coming up. There's the ice. Ice. Here's the north end. And the ice comes further out up there, coming around. Here's the coastline. And here's the Brunt ice shelf. And let's see, it's cracked along the coastline there. We're back to the Weddell Sea. And that's it. Now, let's move on to some earthquakes here. We're here at USGS, and this is all magnitudes for the last 24 hours. We've got 219 showing. We've got 2 6s that came in. 6.2 here in the South Pacific on the next to the Antarctic plate. And we just finished looking at the Antarctic. So right across, looks like right across from the Thwaites Glacier area. And that came in this afternoon at 4:57 p.m. That's Pacific time. And then a 6.9 here in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, between South America and Africa. It's the Central Mid-Atlantic Ridge. This came in this morning at 2:42 a.m. So, let's see if that was near any islands. Doesn't look like it. Out in the middle of the ocean. And then we've got 4s, we've got some 5s, and, today we've got one off the Juan de Fuca plate, a 3.2, and we've had some larger ones here in California. Here was a 3.5 near 7 trees, and this is in the Bay Area. Also down here at the Pinnacles. They're kind of stacked up. We're having an event, it looks like. We've got 14 right here at the Pinnacles, and the largest was a 3.5. Came in today. And, what else? Oh, yeah. 3.0 off the coast of Manhattan Beach, California, came in today. So we're having some larger ones. Now I wanted to, let's go 7 days, all magnitudes. So here's what we've had this week. 2033 all magnitudes this week. Look, we've got one in the South Pacific right next to the one that just came in, 6.3. And that was on the 30th. We've had some movement in the South Sandwich Islands. We've had one up here near Iceland of 4.5. Russia had some earthquakes. Look, we had one in the Chukchi Sea, a 3.7, and here in Russia, 4.6, Belaya Gora, Russia. This is in Siberia. This is at 67 degree north latitude, so this would be considered in the Arctic region. That was on the 3rd. Also in Russia was a 4.7 near Chara, and this is just northeast of Lake Baikal. And we had a 6.1 at Papua New Guinea. Let's see. And then 5s and 4s and so on. Look at all of this. And here in the lower 48, look at all this on the Wanda Fuca plate. 4.5, 2.9, 2.8, and 3.3. Look, just solid all the way up. Here's a larger one, a 4.0 at Delta, Baja, Mexico. Also West Texas. Look at this. 47 here in West Texas, and there were some 4s. At 4.1 near Toya, and 4.4 near Mentone. Those were the largest ones here, and then 3s and 2s mainly after that. Also Yellowstone had 64 this week. A whole bunch right up here in this northwest edge, and then some here further south. And in addition to that, Mount Hood, which is a dormant volcano, in Oregon had 30 this week. They were small, but still to see 30 swarming around the base of Mount Hood, I don't know, it makes me a little nervous. Mount St. Helens had 13. And so on. So that's my report for tonight. And I always like to end on a spiritual note. I do believe we're in the end times. These times have been prophesied about. But we've been reading out of the Book of Wisdom, written by Solomon, King Solomon. This is from the Apocrypha, which were sacred texts that didn't make it into the official Bible, but I think these are valid as well. Wisdom chapter 17. For great are thy judgments, and cannot be expressed. Therefore unnurtured souls have erred. For when unrighteous men thought to oppress the holy nation, they being shut up in their houses, the prisoners of darkness and fettered with the bonds of a long night, lay there exiled from the eternal providence. For while they supposed to lie hid in their secret sins, they were scattered under a dark veil of forgetfulness, being horribly astonished and troubled with strange apparitions. For neither might the corner that held them kept them from fear, but noises of waters falling down sounded about them, and sad visions appeared unto them with heavy countenances. No power of the fire might give them light, neither could the bright flames of the stars endure to lighten that horrible night. Only there appeared unto them a fire kindled of itself, very dreadful, for being much terrified, they thought the things which they saw to be worse than the sight they saw not. As for the illusions of art magic, they were put down, and their vaunting in wisdom was reproved with disgrace, for they that promised to drive away terrors and troubles from a sick soul were sick themselves of fear, worthy to be laughed at. For though no terrible thing did fear them, yet being scared with beasts that passed by, and hissing of serpents, they died for fear, denying that they saw the air, which could of no side be avoided. For wickedness, condemned by her own witness, is very timorous, and being pressed with conscience, always forecasteth grievous things. For fear is nothing else but a betraying of the succours which reason offereth, and the expectation from within, being less, counteth the ignorance more than the cause which bringeth the torment. But they, sleeping the same sleep that night, which was indeed intolerable, which came upon them out of the bottoms of inevitable hell, were partly vexed with monstrous apparitions, and partly fainted, their heart failing them, for a sudden fear, and not looked for, came upon them. So then whosoever there fell down was straitly kept, shut up in a prison without bars. For whether he were husbandman, or shepherd, or laborer in the field, he was overtaken, and endured that necessity which could not be avoided, for they were all bound with one chain of darkness. Whether it were a whistling wind, or a melodious noise of birds among the spreading branches, or a pleasing fall of water running violently, or a terrible sound of stones cast down, or a running that could not be seen of skipping beasts, or a roaring voice of most savage wild beasts, or a rebounding echo from the hollow mountains, these things made them to swoon for fear. For the whole world shined with clear light, and none were hindered in their labor. Over them only was spread in heavy night an image of the darkness which should afterward receive them. But yet were they unto themselves more grievous than the darkness. Wisdom chapter 17. So I'm praying for everyone. If you haven't given your life to Jesus Christ, I highly recommend it while you still have a chance. And so I hope everyone has a good week, as good as possible. And Lord willing, I'll do this next Sunday night again. So I love you all and I'm praying for you. And until next time, God bless you. Go in peace, and I will talk to you soon. Good night.